Alrighty. How we doing, everyone? My name is Sal Conti here, joined again with at QB Class, talking about the 2015 Offensive Lineman, one podcast at a time. Today on Trench Talk, we'll be talking about the top offensive guard talents in this year's class, and we only have 8 hours, so let's get right into it. So today, Derrik, we're going to try not to use all 8 hours. Today we're going to be going over Quinton Spain from West Virginia, Ari Kwanjo from Alabama, A.J. Cann from South Carolina, and Laken Tomlinson from Duke. Let's just get right into it. Quinton Spain from West Virginia, 6'5", 342 pounds, did not participate in the combine, had a very impressive pro day, ran around a sub 540, or 540 rather. Vertical jump 29 inches, bench press 28 reps. Big, very athletic, but not a whole lot to like about his game right now. What do you think about him, Derrik, as it pertains to his traits that are ready for the league right now? Or lack thereof?
He doesn't really have any. I remember watching him, I think it was that Alabama game, and there were a number of instances where he can't right off the snap get his body in position to get in front of a run defender that's knifing inside when he's supposed to be protecting, the inside on an outside zone run.
Right.
So, and his hand placement, from what I saw, just wasn't very good. Like I kind of said, with body positioning, he doesn't ever seem like he knows where he needs to get on a guy to, make the most of his body and use it against the defender. He's big, he's fast, but that's kind of that's it. He's such a project right now.
I agree. Hold on. Yeah. As far as pass pro goes, I actually liken some of his issues with his hands to Cedric Aboyi. I think Aboyi's much more talented and has a lot more things going for him as it pertains to being able to succeed right away. But yeah, Spain just has really his hand placement. He kind of jumps into his pass sets, and there are jump sets where that is necessary, but he's very kind of jumpy, and his hands aren't placed the right way. He doesn't anchor. He doesn't have enough bend in his knees. He's athletic, has a great frame, but again, I know Sully's talked him up on Twitter a little bit, and I understand, maybe in 3 or 4 years, for him it's muscle memory. He really needs to get used to anchoring the right way and getting that bend in his lower body, because he has it. Based on how he tested and how he moves, he's not. I don't think he's stiff. I think he has what it takes. But yeah, I think all in all, not too much to say about Gerald. I don't know why I keep calling him Gerald. Quinton Spain, because I don't know. He's just way too much of a project, and I expected to get a little bit more of a flash of good things from this guy, and I don't know. I think he was just an athletic guard in offense where you didn't need mauling offensive linemen to get the job done. That was really it. Moving on to another one of these stellar guards, we're going to go to Ari Kwanjo from the University of Alabama. Obviously, his brother Cyrus drafted in the second round last year as a left tackle. Cyrus Kwanjo wasn't very impressive either, but I think you and I would agree when I think he was a little more tolerable to watch than Ari was. Strong in a phone booth, sort of, but overall very clunky. Saw action in over 40 career games. I'm just reading off my overview for his draft prospects now. Big frame prospect at 6'5", 310, has the looks to be able to anchor and pass pro, but extreme stiffness in hips and ankles hinder him from reaching full power. By narrative, he's a waist bender, but most especially lacks bend in knees when mirroring defenders in 5- and 7-step pass game. Too quick to swing hips open and wall off even the average 3 technique at the college level. Tries to push pass rushers, not punch them. Lack of bend and power angles and legs make the punch from his 34 1/8 inch arms and 10 7/8 inch hands weak and escapable, which is really absurd with how big and naturally strong he is and just his measurables. Doesn't possess adequate feet to respond to getting his hands knocked down in pass pro. Sees and processes reactions to first-level twists and second-level blitzes in games very slowly. slowly oozes off the ball and run game, muscle memory trained hands that want to push instead of grab and drive. Really exposed in the Sugar Bowl this past season against Michael Bennett in Ohio State, who played with a good first step and had crafty hands to disengage his run game blocks. Over reliance on upper body due to the aforementioned stiffness and lack of power. Looked plausible. He looked okay in the short pull and power read game, ability to wall off defenders from the point of attack, but little to no drive post contact. Has a litany of moderate issues that are clumped together that will make it very hard for him to have sustained success at the NFL level. What do you think about Ari Kawanjo, Derrik?
I mean, I pretty much parallel a lot of what you said. I don't think he's very good. A lot of people, I think, just because of the Alabama label, they want to say, oh, well, he's this big mauler. I think he has decent functional strength, but I think he kind of gets pinned as this mauler that he's really not. I mean, he has plenty of strength where he's going to certainly survive in that area. But I mean, people pin him as like this mauler, like almost like Warmack or something was, or like Fluker, because I mean, there's been so many of these maulers at Alabama. I think people are just kind of assuming Irie Kawangio fits that profile, and I don't really think he does. I think he's also a really good like straight line mover in the second level, and even pulling. Like I think he gets to where he needs to be. It's just kind of like you were saying. Once he gets there, he doesn't really know what he's doing. Like you were talking about, like with his angles and his hand placement, he's just. I mean, he's almost like Spain in the sense that he just doesn't know what he's doing with his body to take advantage of the defender's body. And that's really going to hurt him. And like you were saying too, like he has these long arms with these massive hands on him, and he weighs like 320 pounds at 6'5". He should be destroying people, and he's not. He doesn't know what he's doing.
His hands are quite literally almost a foot wide, and
and that's absurd. Like, he should be able to grip people in the run game and just like drive them into the ground, and he can't for the most part.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, when I was grading him out by just trait by trait, you look at overall hand and arm usage, that was just a straight up F for me. Just beyond poor, undraftable, whatever you want to call it. And I don't understand because you go to Alabama and are these things, is hand placement coached? Yes, but at the same time, I don't know. He just has a lot of crippling technical issues in his game where he looks. I'm not really a narrative guy, but he looks like Tarzan and fights like Jane. But he has all the tools in the shed to get the job done. But he's sluggish. And I actually remember when Lance Zierlein gave his overview of Ari, there was a quote from an SEC defensive coordinator that was something along the lines of, "Yeah, he's just a name. I've always known that he sucks." And that sounds kind of blunt, but I mean, after going through his stuff, like, I really don't have too much else to say about Ari Kawanjo. What I will say about him is that it's not like he has any one issue that's crippling. I'm trying to be optimistic here, so bear with me. It's just that there are so many areas of his game that are not good, like really not good, that could you focus on his hand placement and that could improve and then maybe he's like a serviceable backup? Well, that's fine, but at the same time he still has slow feet and he just, I don't know, he doesn't mirror well in the pass game, and just after reading his eval for me, I couldn't find one real positive, and that's really amazing to me because you'd think for a starting offensive lineman that started over 20, 25 games for Alabama, has little to no positive traits as it pertains to translating to a next level. So, I mean, just as for a guy like Ali Marpet, for example, a Division III football player who seems to have more positives in his game than an Alabama starting offensive lineman, it just amazes me how mediocre he really is. But at the same time, he'll probably get a look in the later rounds. He does have great size and strength, but he doesn't utilize it well. Hopefully he can get that turned around. So that was quick. I'd like to spend a little more time on our last two guys right here because I do think they bring some redeeming qualities to the table. Dating back to last summer, I know Laken Tomlinson got some round one burn from draft Twitter. That clearly isn't the case and won't be the case, but I will say there are some good qualities to his game. So let's start off with you. What are your main highlights of the positives of Laken Tomlinson's game?
For one, with Tomlinson, I like his pad level a lot. At like 6, I mean, he's not like super tall, but at 6'3", 320, for him to be able to get under his pads and shoot low on guys and stay low, it makes him a really good driver. And I thought that was one thing I really liked. I mean, I think he can be a good mauling guard in that sense. If you just kind of let him get at guys and get under him like I think he can. I think he has a really strong lower body. I mean, and that kind of correlates with, how good his leverage is. I think he just has a really strong lower body and he knows how to use it, which is going to be really helpful. I think his upper body strength is good, but I think he has real issues figuring out how to use it. I don't think his hand placement is necessarily terrible. Like there's instances where he gets a hand on guys and just drives through them. But there's a lot of instances where he kind of shoots wide and can't really grip guys like he's wanting to, and he ends up, he'll try to drive through the block, but he won't get that grip, so he'll kind of overextend and fall over or kind of run past the guy. I think that's going to be an issue for him. Yeah, like I was saying, I don't like his hands. I think sometimes he's not assertive enough with them. Sometimes is maybe it. Maybe that's why he's shooting a little wide. I don't think he moves laterally very well. Like if you watch him having to try to move across the line in pass pro, like say a defensive tackle's a little too quick for him off the offensive line. Instead of being able to just shuffle over, he has to turn his hips and try to shoot at the guy. That is probably going to get him into some trouble for a number of reasons. So I mean, overall, Tomlinson, I think he has a lot to work with because he knows how to use his lower body, and it's a strong lower body, and he's a big guy. And I think his hands aren't bad. You just have to kind of clean him up a little bit as opposed to kind of entirely revamping his hand placement. So really, like my only huge knock that maybe he can't fix is his agility and how well he turns or how well he moves across the line of scrimmage and pass pro. I think he can be a solid guard, but I don't really think he's anything great. I mean, he's probably like a late day 2 guy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think Laken Tomlinson's anything too special, but compared to Coanjo and Spain, who I think are borderline afterthoughts, Tomlinson definitely ahead of them. Or again, take that for what you will. Another guy with good size, 6'3", 323. You were saying he has decent pad level, and 6'3" is not, Kyle Long's a 6'6" guard. That's huge, but 6'3" is an adequate size for a guard, and the ability to get under his pads at that size is pretty good. I like his strength. I like him in the inside zone running game. I think some prospects we went over, like last week, Jake Fisher. Obviously, I like him more as a prospect, but I kind of question his ability to just man block 6 techniques or just head up ends and kind of take all his crafty handwork aside. Like, can you win that block if I'm on the goal line and I need a touchdown and I need you to move that guy into the end zone? Well, I feel Tomlinson, that's one of his strengths, where if his hips are facing towards you and he gets his hands inside, I think he does have some strength to his game. Now, with that being said, he rolls off the ball pretty slowly. He's built like the letter T, I think. Like, if you take Julius Thomas and stomp on him with the Pixar guy, you kind of get Laken Tomlinson. He's got these wide shoulders that kind of slim into some, like, rectangular-ish frame, which kind of shows me he could have some room to build out, but he's built very awkward, kind of funny-looking guy. Pounds his feet in the run game, walks his feet out to win blocks. A little bit better than Coanjo in the pull and run game. There was a couple clips going around on Draft Breakdown and Twitter of him running out in front of Jamison Crowder, blocking corners, blocking safeties, keeping his feet. He is a clunkier guy, and he's never going to be called the most athletic lineman. But there you go. he's never going to be called the most athletic, but he can move a little bit. I think you can kind of see him. It's kind of funny in that pick game when I saw him run. It's just like, all right, he knows he's going to fall eventually, but it's not happening yet, but it's going to happen soon. But yeah, I actually, you know what? I didn't mind Lakin Tomlinson. I'll say that. You know why? Because I like his ability to pull. I like his ability to square up and drive if his hips are facing things. As far as the pass game goes, if you look at like a Quentin Spain or an Ari Karanjo, they got bull rush because their hand placement sucked. Whereas with Lakin, 3 techniques and 4 eyes really couldn't bull rush Lakin because he had a good anchor. His hand placement was okay, but he's just very strong, and he has more of an aptitude to anchor and just better suited to play at the next level because of those traits. He passes off defenders with heavy hands. He's a smart guy. He definitely sees stunts a lot better than these other guys we've talked about. He doesn't respond to speed very well. He doesn't respond to which move? I had a very specific move here. Let's see here. Always finding trouble if uncovered. Always looking to find work. That's good. Oh yeah. Does not respond very well to a speed rip of the hands to the inside. So he has some athletic ability with his post foot. I'm sorry, his kick step foot. But if you challenge him to his power foot side with speed, he has a very hard time readjusting, and that's really the be-all, end-all of pass pro. If you give up your inside, you're done. So obviously a question there. He has a decent ability to recover in pass pro, but again, by recover, I mean kind of lunge and hold a guy and hope it doesn't get seen by a ref. Speed, again, is not his deal. This isn't Brandon Scherf we're talking about. I don't know. I think he's okay. He's pretty much the definition of average for me. I'm really not sure, based on the economics of the board, how far or how not far, I guess, he'll fall. But if I had to throw a round out there, probably like an early day 3 or round 3 type guy. I think he has potential. Like, could he be a starting guard at the NFL level? He could. I think he could benefit from slimming out and just growing into his frame. Like, he doesn't really look fully built into himself yet, Like I said, he's built like the letter T. There's definitely some room to get rid of bad fat and add on some muscle. So I think he has potential to be something okay at the NFL level. But all in all, he's just pretty clunky, and he's a good drive blocker, but I don't really see him as a good enough athlete to really succeed in the NFL. So one last guy we have, I can't believe we're all finished with this already, is A.J. Cann from South Carolina. And if I had to choose one of these guys to be my top guard, I would easily choose Mr. Cann. I really like his pass set demeanor. Again, prototypical frame at 6'3", 313. Hand and arm usage is okay. Reaction to pass rush moves in the pass game is very, very bad. I'm going to go over my review for him right now. So, redshirt senior offensive guard A.J. Cann made an appearance in 52 games in his 4 seasons of play with the Gamecocks. He was redshirted in 2010. That's a plus for me. I like to see guys who have a lot of game experience, and usually that's not a plus in itself. Usually it's something where, this player displays a certain mental aptitude in this subject, and it shows because he started in 50-plus games, and I'll get into that as we go. Cann is a stoutly built offensive lineman, bottom heavy, who projects to a guard spot in the NFL or a center spot. I actually like him more at center, preferably on the left side if he plays guard. Played in a zone heavy scheme, sometimes asked to pull, which is not his strength. Punch of power, effectiveness of block significantly decreases when in movement. While his upper half could use some more definition and bulk, he has a wide, strong lower body that was crucial in his efforts to anchor pass rushers and drive through contact in the run game. Cann is a squatty, strong guard whose main strength came in pass protection. He has a strong aptitude for every protection scheme at South Carolina, which employed man zone, half man, and rollout protection slide in its offense. He used a strong base and a good inside clench to withstand bull rush. Quick to reach landmarks, has a good demeanor off snap, but was exposed multiple times versus inside rip moves, and speed. to any one of the corners of his frame. Versus a wide rush, Can fails to marry his hands and feet, causing a loss of balance, weak punch, and or blown assignment, lacks the quickness you want to see in an offensive lineman responding to rip and swim moves, gets progressively more heavy-footed as the play draws longer in the pass and run game, would benefit greatly from widening the angle of his kick step. This would help solve his issue. I think he opened up his foot too wide, which kind of opened up his hips, which killed him from the get-go, but we'll get into that later on. AJ is good in the run game, especially in inside zone schemes, which is your bread and butter in the NFL and football anyway. So, violent first step, but punch location is erratic versus moving targets, like slanting free techniques and blitzing linebackers. Can only block with his hips are facing efficiently, similar to Laken Tomlinson. Poor job of flipping his hips and quickly firing feet to block second-level defenders. Displays flashes of dominance in the run game and a constant knowledge of defensive fronts and pass game schemes, but lateral agility in both phases of offense must be improved. So, after watching A.J. Can, what do you think your thoughts on him are?
I liked him a lot, but your projection to center makes a lot of sense because you can keep him in a phone booth, and I think that's where he wins as opposed to keeping guys that are coming outside, working them back inside. Kind of like we were talking about, just me and you last night. If you aim for the outermost point of trying to get to Can, you're going to be able to beat him. And if you put him at center, there's a lot less, there's a lot less room for that to happen. There's a lot less room for Can to have to cover in that sense. And you have more guys to your left and your right to be able to kind of make up for that. And I think, putting him at center could put him in a phone booth. That could help. And one thing I noticed with him is he can kind of be a little late reacting to the snap. And, if you put him at center, he is the snap, so that can kind of negate that problem.
That's true.
And I thought that was where, in most instances where I saw him lose in pass protection, it was him being just a half second late off the snap and not having, the incredible athleticism to still jump over and get ahead of the block. I really liked him. I don't think he's a special player, but I think he's well-rounded and pretty good at a lot of things. I thought his hand placement was solid. I think it was a little better than Tomlinson's. I don't think it was super powerful, but I thought, it got where it needed to be for the most part, and it did its job. Like I'm saying, it's not like Brandon Scherf going out there and punching dudes straight to the ground.
Not a lot of that, like Scherf, obviously.
Yeah.
That's a special thing.
Let's see. And I always liked that, kind of like you said with Tomlinson, I thought Can was a guy who was always looking to make multiple blocks on the play, and that's something I really like. Like, say, for instance, Lyle Collins, like a top 3 player in the class for me. And one of the traits I really like about him is he's trying to kill, like, 3 dudes on each play. And that's just a fun, aggressive player to watch that, especially in the run game. If you can take out one blocker and maybe even just touch another guy and kind of move him just off of his spot a little bit, you can open up a run lane even more.
Right.
I think he has the movement skills at the second level and as a pulling guard to be more than serviceable. I mean, again, he's not a special player in that regard, but he's going to be good. His anchor's the same way, I thought. I think he has a good anchor. He can stay low well enough, but, it's not anything special. You might every now and then have a incredibly talented one-tech or, nose tackle that's going to be able to run through him just because of their incredible athleticism and strength. But, I mean, for the most part, against most defensive tackles, I don't see Can getting bull rushed. And, like I was kind of saying with, with his anchor, I think he has a lot of functional strength, both upper body and lower body, both in pass pro and in the run game. I can kind of understand what you were saying with him being a little bit erratic with moving targets. I think that's definitely more of an issue in the run game than it was in the pass game for him. But I can see that concern. Overall, I really liked Can, though. He's definitely my top guard.
Right. I definitely think it's less moving targets than it is targets to his inside foot. Or just, I always have a hard time kind of compacting this into a phrase, but he really can't handle misdirection. But it's strange because he's a smart player, a savvy player, and he made a note of making this statement at the combine by talking about his experience and his mental intelligence. And when I first saw that, I was kind of skeptical because I was watching him after I saw Lakin, Quinn, and Kawanjo, where I haven't seen a single guard with the mental aptitude to pass off stunts and play within a blitz and respond to a blitz. So I was really, really scared, and I wanted to see something good. And honestly, that's probably the best part of Can's game. He passes off ends the right way, and you're supposed to secure the slant. Make sure your buddy next to you at tackle doesn't get killed, but also secure that blitzer coming back from the second level. This would be a lot easier if we can draw things up, but clearly, what I saw about him, he's the quarterback of the offensive line out there. He keeps his head on a swivel. He makes sure that everything's in control, and I like that about his game. It was pretty refreshing again after watching the first 3 or 4 guys. In the screen game, though, part of the reason why I like to move to center, because the center really isn't as an integral part of the screen game compared to guards. Again, that's just a generalization, but it's probably true in most cases. He's very hard to watch in the screen game. He's not very fast. Offensive linemen should really only be asked to be fast for 5 yards, and if they're athletic more than that, so be it. Then put them in the screen game and let them move to the second level. But outside of just basic climbing on inside zone or basic chasing for a back or an outside zone or anything like that, he's very hard to watch. He can't sustain contact on the move very well. He has a strong punch with his first 2 steps, but although foot-by-foot footwork isn't coached up, obviously, at the second level. Now, obviously, before people read this and slander me for it, obviously, you coach up paths to linebackers and you coach up screen game paths, but it's like you don't, foot by foot, obviously it's coached up that you have to mirror defenders and you have to attack defenders, but so you can either respond to agility or you can't. By nature, these second level defenders are more athletic than you are, and if you don't have the goods to swivel your hips and win the block by yourself, I'm not saying you have to take Washington. What is his name? You don't have to take. Help me out here. Not Kaka.
What? Shaq Thompson?
Yep. I'm not gonna. I don't want to take Shaq Thompson and take him here and move him here, because by the time I try and do that, he's ripping past me and making the play. But I need to have the aptitude to stay in my lane here, wall him off, and have that kind of savvy and just enough ability in my hips to wall him off so that ball can go inside of me. I don't see that a lot from him. When you force him to play in space, it's very ugly. I like his ability in the phone booth, like we were talking about earlier. I like him at center a lot just because he's just so squatty, as I said. I like that word, squatty. It's fun to use. He just has that good base, good inside hands and pass pro. And at the center position, that's the epicenter of all communication going on the offensive line. In terms of communicating blitzes and stunts and different kinds of combinations and efforts in the run game and pass game, it all starts at the center position. If you go to from a 3-down front and a 34 defense and you kick that Sam down to a 4-down look, he has to communicate who's uncovered, where the Mike is, where the Sam is, who we have to account for. If the whole game he's playing against a one technique and then he bumps down to a shade nose and that Mike linebacker's walking up, he has to think, all right, hey guys, we got somebody. We're going to have a stunt coming. He's going to be looping inside, and based on film and practice and just common sense, if something's different, something's up, which means, if something's different than what's been lined up against you the whole game, something's going on. And the best centers communicate that, and the best guards communicate that. So I think in terms of a mental aspect of the game, Can fits perfectly at center, and he's not going to be valued very highly like any of the tackles we talked about last week. I don't think he has a chance of going in the first couple rounds, and that's really good for teams that want a backup center or third-string center because he has the intelligence, he has the build, and although he, on an island in the pass game, it's pretty rough, I think he can adjust. I think that's, again, muscle memory and something that can be coached. I'm not saying it will be. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible. And I think he would be a good fit for any team as a center. But going back to his pass pro stuff, when he struggled, it wasn't that he was oversetting, but just in the 5-step game, when he was, now when you have your kick step foot, okay, you should have your toe outside of your knee, okay, because if your feet naturally can't be facing forward, because then your hips are too close and you have no power. But if you, the way he does it is he opens his hips way too wide, where he's not giving himself a chance to readjust. So, I mean, obviously your inside foot is used to readjust and power and wash down defenders inside. But if your outside foot is too far angled to the outside, you have no chance of responding. And when you're slow-footed and slow-hipped to begin with, you got to give yourself a fighting chance. So I think his footwork needs to be cleaned up. I think it's just meticulous little things that could help him be a more competent protector of the quarterback. But yeah, I think he projects really well to center. It could be a good value for a team. And if we're not counting Brandon Scherf, he is hands down my number 1 guard in the class.
I mean, that's exactly where I stand too. I mean, Scherf technically isn't a guard, like we're saying, but he's probably going to project there unless his knee works back out and he kind of gains that, functional agility and able to utilize his functional length a little bit better on the edge. But yeah, if you don't count Scherf, I think Can's pretty easily my number 1 guard too. And like we were saying, Tomlinson's not bad. It's just I think there's more that Can has to offer. Yeah.
Yeah. None of these guys are really flashy. This is not the Jonathan Cooper, Chance Warmack class by any means.
Mm-hmm. None of them should go top 50. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. So that concludes our very short list of guards. We went about a half hour, which means technically we have 7 hours and 30 minutes left. But we're going to cut it short here. And moving forward, I just wanted to let you guys know what we're doing. Derrik and I have decided to transition to defensive linemen. Okay, this is called Trench Talk, and we are cheating a little bit, but defensive linemen are just as trenchman as we are. So next episode, which will be posted eventually on Twitter, we will be going over the following defensive linemen, not edge players. We'll get into that as well, that whole thing. Leonard Williams from USC, Danny Shelton from Washington, Grady Jarrett from Clemson, and Michael Bennett from Ohio State. If there's any questions, comments, and concerns about the players we chose or things you want to see on the episode, then shoot one of us a tweet at SC2_DFW or hit up Derrik at QBClass, KLASS. Other than that, I think it's pretty clear overall. Quinton Spain, huge project, needs a lot of work, but has athleticism to move and do everything asked to him at guard. Has potential, but I wouldn't expect anything out of him in the first couple years. Laken Tomlinson, a clunky mover, powerful, oddly shaped, has strength to play in the run game, but not overly athletic, has some growth potential, not finished building into his body, could be an average starting or backup guard in the NFL. Ari Kwanjo, garbage. No, I'm just kidding. But pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Ari Karanjo looks the part, doesn't play it, doesn't have any huge gashes in his game, but as opposed to like 50,000 million paper cuts, that's what I see in him. That just equate to one big bruise, and it's not pretty. Not a lot of good things in his game other than his size and his level of ability to be strong, but he just doesn't play strong. I'm optimistic, so maybe he has a chance, but don't like the chances there. And then finally, A.J. Cann, who's probably his best bet is to move to center, has some athleticism, quick first 2 steps in the run game, strong, powerful, squatty lower body, very smart, experienced, played over 50 snaps at a powerhouse SEC school. But overall, none of these guys very strong and powerful, and none of these guys are ever going to go or plan about going in the first 2 rounds. But also, they're each kind of unique in their own way. So I think that's it. Your final words here from Derrik?
Not much. I mean, there's just kind of like you were saying, none of them are really special. none of them should really go top 50. Uh, I think potential-wise, I mean, realistic potential-wise, Tomlinson is probably your best bet. I think Can's a little safer. Um, but that's about it. Like, this really isn't a very good guard class.
All right, so next time on Trench Talk 2015, we will talk about Jared Odrick, the star defensive tackle from USC, and Derrik Klassen will state his case for why he's the next Justin Smith. Don't miss that one. It's going to be fun, all right? So, again, at SC2_DFW, at QB Class. We'll be back next time. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.